And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our first live chat here today. My name is Aline, and actually lead the marketing team here at Vittorio. And I have the pleasure, I'm thrilled here to be talking to Patrick, to you in this format today, one of our co-founders here at
Nice
Vittorio.
to see you, Aline, and I really love the music. let's
I know,
let's keep that
right?
up for a bit.
I know. No, I put a lot of thought into picking this music. So we have a packed session. We actually set this up for 30 minutes because we want to be conscious of your time. And we packed it with a lot of information. But I want to make sure that you know that along the way, please use the comment section to ask any questions, share your experiences, share your struggles, and we make sure that we will extend this conversation even beyond our live chat here today, and we will reach out to you and really, extend this conversation. So, without further ado, Patrick, it
Aline, why
is
is it
time.
so dark in the background?
Oh yeah,
Can you tell us
I
about that?
yes, I can. So I'm actually joining from Hong Kong today. So
Ah,
I'm representing APAC at this moment. So yeah, we're already in a later time zone, so it's already evening over here.
I'm in Munich in our office, and it's fine too.
Headquarters,
Headquarters, yeah.
representing,
Sounds
representing.
fancy.
uh, so Patrick, it is quite a strong, topic here that we picked, and that we picked to talk about. Forget about upskilling. The real challenge is behavior change. Maybe before we even dive into that, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Maybe give a short introduction.
Sure, Patrick, one of the co-founders and managing directors of Ritorio. Ritorio is a behavioral intelligence platform from Munich. So actually, it's a spin-off of the Technical University of Munich, where my co-founder Christoph and I we did our PhDs in behavioral research and organizational management. And a little bit about myself, I'm born and raised in Munich. I never really made it that far. I'm still in Munich, so never really left my comfort zone. Although I studied in between in London, then went back basically to do my PhD. And what always fascinated me is human behavior, right? And understanding, how humans interact, how they communicate, how they behave towards each other. And for me, it was always about, expressing behavior through data, finding ways to understand behavior through technology. And so as part of my PhD and also my collaborations with my co-founder, we developed this AI that understands human behavior from video data, right? So we developed this crazy AI that gets to see you on video, and from a short video of a person very reliably can understand, what kind of person you are, how you behave, how you communicate. But we will talk a little bit more about that later on, I guess.
I guess we will. Um, Going from behavior to upskilling. I think there
Mm.
has been a lot of buzz. I think I've been hearing a lot about upskilling, reskilling. A lot of companies are focusing on talking about it. And now we're saying we should forget about it.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, first of all, of course, we like provocative titles, right? And like, please, everyone, don't be offended. Whatever you do in upskilling, I'm sure it's great, right? It's just we want to create a little bit of awareness for the fact that upskilling might be not as important as a lot of people believe, right? And that when it really comes to evolving your organization, right, and improving it, that behavior, like affecting behavior, changing behavior, that this is the challenge that you really will have to focus on, because skills can be built comparatively easily, but really changing behavior, affecting behavior, that's the real challenge. And I always like this example of comparing upskilling and behavior change to smoking, right? Like we all have the skill or this knowledge that smoking is a bad thing, right? Um, but you can send people into 5 different trainings about how smoking is bad, and you can show them all the evidence, and you can provide them all the knowledge they know they need to know that smoking is bad, and still they will continue doing it, right? In the end, it's really about integrating yourself into people's life and really shaping the behavior of people, and really, being there for them when they want to light on a cigarette, and preventing them from doing that. And that's so much more difficult than just sending people into some trainings and improving their skills, right?
It's so much more difficult, but why is it important? And why is it maybe more important than upskilling?
Yeah, there's some stuff I can share in this regard, and of course, I prepared some data, given that we tend to be a little bit data driven here. But maybe to give you a little bit of a wider opening, right? So why do people even care about upskilling, right? Why is upskilling so important for so many companies? And I think also why has it become so important over the last few years? And I think the major reason is the ocean, which probably doesn't really make sense for you right now. Aline, you were raised, or you sort of grew up in California. Do you know surfing? Have you ever tried surfing?
Not really, to be honest. I know, shame on me.
Shame on you. Okay, then I have to continue this conversation by myself. No, but the current situation, or the experience that we've had over the last few years, I think very much resembles this feeling that you have when you try to do surfing, and you don't really know what you're doing, right? And suddenly you're being dragged into these big waves, and they break on top of you and drag you under the surface, right? And you hardly can breathe, right? You're under the surface for 10-15 seconds, and then the moment you get up again on the surface and you start breathing again, the next wave hits you, right? And this is basically how all of us, I guess, and also our clients, right, and especially big enterprises, have felt over the last 3-4 years, right? So initially we just wanted to have a nice day at the beach, right? And we wanted to go swimming a little bit, but suddenly we were hit after one after another, wave of change, of disruption, right? Including COVID-19, right? Inflation, supply chain issues, the war in Ukraine, resource price inflation, and the situation in China now. There might be a recession looming, right? So whenever we feel like we went through something, the next wave hits us, and we start, being dragged under the surface again. And in a sense, we need to learn to deal with changes and volatility. And most of the organizations we talk to, and there's some data on that provided by the World Economic Forum, actually 60% of the companies out there, they think in order to implement the right technologies, right, and effectively adapt to this volatile business environment, they need to close skill gaps, right? They think it's all about upskilling. And the truth is, well, to some extent it is about upskilling, but most of these companies, they fail at upskilling. And why is that? Well, when we talk to these companies, right, and we talk to them, what does upskilling mean for you? The first thing they usually show you is very fancy competency models, right? Skill matrices, competency wheels. Sometimes it's pyramids, beautiful, colorful pyramids, right? And they show you these complex models, right? That, to be honest, the more of them you see, the more you feel they're all the same, right? Because in the end, it seems that most companies sort of want to move in a similar direction, right? They want to become more client-centric. They want to become more agile. They want to become more digital, right? And so they identify a similar set of competencies and skills, right? And they say, oh, this is where we want to move our people, right? This is where we want to take them, right? And it takes them, sometimes years to develop these models. And if you ask them, but what do you really do about this, right? How do you really achieve this? They tend to show you, a big array of different training programs and academies and internal, sometimes universities and e-learning formats, right? And they, in a sense, pour a lot of money, into all these different programs, hoping that some of this actually leads to the skills that they think will be relevant in the future. And the challenge here is nobody really knows how the future is going to be, right? So yes, you can set yourself goals as an organization and say, we want to be this and that in the future, but ultimately you don't really know what kind of skills you will need, right? The kind of technologies that will be available, the kind of functions and positions you will need to deal with those technologies. it's something you basically cannot really know years in advance. But these programs, these upskilling programs, they tend to take 4 to 6 years to show any first effects, right? And unfortunately, the effects you observe tend to be very different from what you initially expected, because you have this Chinese whispering effect where in the beginning, right, you define skills and competencies, and then you define training programs, and like with each step you have on the way, you have these dilution effects, right, where you more and more move away from your initial target. And by the moment you're there, right, first of all, 2/3 of your workforce probably will have left the company already, so you upskill people for your competition basically. And at the same time, you know, it's just taking too long, right? By then the world has changed 2 or 3 times, and the skills that people end up with might not be the right ones, and you can just hope that you somewhat move them in the right direction. Does that make sense?
It does. It kind of raises the questions then. We have those waves that you mentioned earlier crashing in, right? So how can companies, if it's not upskilling because it takes so much time, but how can companies, you know, really prepare for those waves and be ready to face any challenges in the future?
Yeah. So the real challenge is to create a culture of behaviors that embrace change and learning, right? And that's what it's all about. Like, in a sense, as an organization, you can make the argument that there's only one skill you really need to learn, and that's probably not a skill, but it's this ability to adapt to change and in a sense disrupt yourself, right, and be ahead of the game. And there's some data supporting this, right? So when we look at enterprise companies all around the world, right, we observe that roughly 46% of all hires fail within 18 months, right? And we observe that roughly 70% of employees feel disengaged at work, right? And now these companies take these hires that don't tend to perform that well, and also the existing teams, right, and they try to upskill them and upskill them and upskill them. But as it turns out, you know, only 11% of the failure to adapt to change, right, can be attributed towards skill gaps, right? When you hire a lot of people, it's very unlikely that those people don't have the skills or are not able to learn the skills that you need of them, right? Skills can be acquired rather fast most of the time. It's something, if you show the right motivation, if you have the right engagement, people can make up their skill gaps most of the time by themselves, right? The real challenge is to create this urgency and this engagement, right? And align the behavior of your people with your culture, right? And this is where the actual trouble shows up, right? Because as it turns out, 89% of failed transformation projects can be attributed towards a misalignment of behavior and culture, right? It's not that people can't do it, right? It's not like they don't have skills. It's more like that they don't feel comfortable enough in the culture to really work on it and to really close those skill gaps, and they're just not engaged enough to really adjust things, right? And this is the thing. It comes back to the example of smoking, right? It's basically, you know, 89% of people know they should stop smoking, right? But they don't know how to do it, or they actually just don't do it, right? And only 11% of the people don't know that smoking is a problem in itself, right? It's about affecting change, affecting behavior, and really creating this culture where people embrace change.
I think that's such a strong, you know, number there as well of 89%. That's so high. And I think it kind of changes our perspective on things. A lot of the time we always talked about upskilling, but now it's like, darn, the real core of the issue, the real, you know, foundation at the end of the day is way deeper. It starts with, you know, culture. It starts with creating a culture that embraces change, and it starts, you know, culture is basically a accumulation of, you know, different behaviors and teams coming together.
Exactly, and the question that probably everyone in the chat right now will want to write is but how, right? I mean, we know, of course, culture change is a lot more difficult than just upskilling people, and I think what I just want to stress as an organization, you are not a university. You know, it's not your job to generally prepare people for life or to generally upskill them. You know, there's great universities out there. I attended some of them. You attended some of them. But as an organization, it's not your job to build an alternative system of to the university system and generally prepare people for life. You know, there's other ways to. Your job is to align the year of your people with your culture, right? And this is where we come into play. You know, this is where most of our, you know, over the last few years has been focused on, and also where our has focused on, right?
So
and
how
maybe
do you
to give
do
you a
it,
little
Patrick?
bit,
Yes.
yeah.
How do you do
Now
it?
it gets interesting, right? And
you created such an excitement here. I want to know.
yeah, so what we did, and initially we did this as part of our research, right? We tried to find ways to explain, predict, and shape behavior, right? So in a sense, we approach complexity of behavior, and we thought about, okay, how can we make behavior, you know, less abstract and more concrete? And so we started developing algorithms that allow us to explain, predict, and shape behavior. And the way we do that is through video analysis. So when you deal with behavior, right, the best way to understand how people behave is to interact with them, to in a sense talk to them, to observe them, right? And the best way to get this kind of data into a system, right, is to record people on video and analyze how they behave, right? And so we develop algorithms that quantify behavior and like personality, you know, communication from video data, right? And our AI has learned from millions of data points, you know, to understand human behavior, to understand what humans say, how they say it, and to put it in scientific terms. So, for instance, you give us a 15 of yourself in any kind of situation, and our AI with more than 90% accuracy can determine how you behave and how you come across in terms of your personality. In this way, we can, for instance, predict what impact you will have on people around you, right? If people around you will perceive you as a rather open person, as a rather innovative person, as a rather extroverted or introverted person, right? And this allows us to understand behavior and put it into context, right? And this technology in general can be used for a lot of different things, right? It's very flexible. And what we then did, or what you might wonder, is how do we actually use this, right? And our main way of using this technology, and this is where we founded Retorio and then started, you know, using it to help enterprise clients around the whole world to evolve their culture, right, and become more adaptable to change and become more innovative and more customer centric. And how do we do that? Well, it's very easy. We identify winning within our clients' cultures, and then we drive these winning behaviors and we transfer them, you know, and make them scalable. And you might imagine, okay, how's this to work? Well, most of our clients, you know, are large, you know, organizations with people all around the world, you know, and it's really about understanding, you know, how certain people in the organization are so much better at adapting to change and evolving than other people, right? And the good thing is most of our clients don't really know what skills they might need in the future or what competence. I mean, they have a rough idea, but they certainly don't know for sure, right? But they have a very good feeling for what kind of people will take them there. And if I asked you about your team, or you asked me my team, and you asked me to pick 2, 3, 5, whatever people that I know are really well prepared for the future, right? Every company can give you these names, right? And this is what we do for our clients, right? We get a set of people that have behaviors, that have competencies, that have skills, that very well prepare them for future. We invite these people to take part in certain video simulations. We record them on video, right? We analyze them and we find out what them so great at their job, right? And then we transfer these insights into the rest of the team and enable the rest of the to behave in a similar way. Is this concrete enough, or is it too abstract, Aline? You need to tell me.
I think it is, but I think we can take it even the next level, because what people would be, I believe, a lot more interested as well is like, how does this actually look like, right? So, okay, we're
Yeah,
taking, the best performers, but how is this being done? How do we then understand, the winning behaviors? Walk me through that a little bit more, or walk us
yeah,
through that a little bit more.
sure. First of all, generally we combine three different use cases, right? And we call those spot, hire, and develop, right? Spotting team, right? We get your best people on video, we analyze their behavior, and we find out what drives your performance culture, right? Then we can transfer this data into your hiring or your development process, right? When we do it in hiring, we invite your talents into pre-assessments, right? We invite them in video interviews or video simulations that we did with your top performers, and we see to which extent their behavior matches the behavior of the best people within the organization, right? In this way, very quickly, we can find out if a person applying for a job with you is prepared for the culture that you want to build. But we can also use these video simulations to analyze your existing team, right? And show them how they come across, they behave, and how their behavior compares to the behavior of the best performing people in the organization, right? And by doing this, we create awareness, right? People become aware of their effects on others. They understand how they're being perceived, and they start working on themselves. And to make this even more concrete, right, just an example, right? So we have several clients, for instance, in the automotive industry, some of the German premium automotive manufacturers, they use us to transform their global sales culture, right? So they know the future of car sales looks very different from the current setting, right? They don't know the skills they will need in the future, but they quite well know who will take them there, right? And what they did is they created typical video simulations that say typical everyday situations that their salespeople will in the future, right? They simulate, what kind of questions clients in the future will ask their sales and service people around the world, right? And then they invite their best sales people around the world to take part in these video simulations, right? And to record themselves on video while interacting with a simulator like you see here, right? So in this case, you see a simulated client coming into a car dealership, asking you as a sales rep very challenging questions. And now as a sales rep, you share your webcam and your microphone, right? And you need to find the right answer, convince this simulated client to continuously buy your product, right? And we can make these simulations more and more challenging, right? And more referring to the future. And in the beginning, our AI doesn't really know what to look for, right? But the more amazing, thought leaders we get into the system, the AI will understand, where you want to evolve your culture, and then it will look into your language, look into your gesture, into your facial expression, look at your voice, right, and help the rest of the team adjust their behavior, right? And step by step, we invite more and more people within the organization to take part in these video simulations. We integrate these video simulations into the daily life of the employees of these companies, right? And basically form these individualized learning paths and engage the employees to work on themselves, right? Create self-awareness and improve them.
So at this point, you're actually creating trainings that are A, highly relevant, and B, you can then take them anytime and really prepare any job situation that you might face tomorrow, and you can practice them today, get that feedback to really drive, self-awareness, what you mentioned earlier, right? And then take the next steps to actually, learn and have that self-awareness where you want to change and want to, take the next steps to actually train and develop in the future.
Just right. And the beauty of it, you can move in small steps, right? You don't need to find the skills that you need 10 years down the road and develop abstract trainings, hoping that they will take people to where you want to have them 10 years from now. But you move in little steps, right? You look at the behaviors of the people in your organization that adapt best to change, right? you look at what they do differently, and then you invite other people that are struggling with it, right? And you show them how the best performing people in the organization deal with it. And the beauty of it, you can scale it, right? You can scale it unlimitedly. You can create more and more of these video simulations. More and more of those are nowadays generated through generative AI. So you don't need to work with actors or anything. You can simulate clients through AI, right? The AI through deepfake technology, finds clients, that feel like real clients, right? And it finds more and more situations that allow you to basically prepare yourself better and better for the future. And we can integrate it into very concrete, milestones in your career, right? So for instance, what we quite often do is we integrate this into CRM systems, right? Or into HR systems. We say, well, if, for instance, you're a salesperson, you're freshly onboarded, and tomorrow you have your first client call, we will invite you through the CRM system into a video simulation where we will simulate this client call for you, and you go through it, and today prepare what you will face tomorrow in that call with the client, right? And by seeing yourself on video and by experiencing through the AI how this client would perceive you, right? You learn to adapt your behavior and you feel better and better prepared. And step by step, you evolve and you build new skills without even knowing you're developing new skills. That's the beauty of it.
So I get that. I think the big question here is, are talents getting it? Are they actually using it? How do they actually like this sort of new form of training, let's say?
Yeah, that was our biggest concern in the beginning, right? Because when we spun this off out of research, we always believed in this vision, but we wanted, like, will people actually use this technology, right? Will they actually interact with AI, right? And we're astonished to see how well this technology was received by the end users. And we nowadays observe net promoter scores of beyond 90%, which is really way beyond industry standard for any kind of training, including in-person trainings, right? And we were quite surprised, almost shocked by this, and we wondered, where do these numbers come from, right? And started digging deeper, and as it turned out, what really drives the acceptance is the psychological safety that the technology offers, right? So actually, we weren't quite aware of this ourselves in the beginning, but later on we realized that for the first time, in a sense, in human history, we offered a technology that in total anonymity can give you 100% honest, in a sense, brutally honest feedback on how you are being perceived by other people, right? And this is something that in the past only other humans could do, right? If you, Aline, wanted to know how people perceive you, right? And if you're being perceived as extroverted, as introverted, as open, as conscientious, if you talk too loud or too quietly, right? If people think you have a German accent or not, right? The only thing you could do is ask other people, right? And those people, if they were around you, they might not have told you the truth because they care about you. They don't want to be rude, right? And now with the technology, for the first time ever, you have this opportunity to get 100% honest, feedback, data-driven feedback that will tell you how you come across, how you behave, and how your behavior can be compared within your organization, right? And this creates this effect that people get so much more self-awareness, right? They suddenly understand their true impact on other people and they start reflecting it, right? And the moment they start reflecting it, they start looking for, more input, more content. They start looking for more feedback, and they commence this journey, right, where they really start evolving as a person and develop into better salespeople, service people, into better leaders, quite often even into better engineers, as we now observe, by reflecting their behavior.
So I'm looking at time, Patrick. Tell me a little bit more of what we've actually seen results within customers, right? Because it's always nice to like talk about it, but what are some of the results that our customers are seeing that have already implemented it and really put the focus on behavior rather than just skills?
Yeah, there is a wide range of effects we observe, right? Some are more on the sort of process effective efficiency side. Others are really having long lasting impacts, right? And to start on the process side, what we see is that our clients start moving a lot faster, right? The moment they integrate our technology into their training, onboarding, even recruitment procedures, they start making faster decisions. They start changing talents, rolling out training programs faster, right? And they can do it at way lower cost. So on average, I think when we're being used for pre-screening, for instance, we can speed up recruitment processes by on average 50 to 70%. If you use us to onboard or train people, you can suddenly roll out global training programs within a few hours or days, depending on how much effort you put into the content you create. But the beauty of it, you suddenly can build a client simulation, that reacts to a very spontaneous event. We had this case of a client who got a ship stuck in Suez Channel, and they suddenly had to build new trainings and roll them out globally within days. And with our technology, for the first time, they were able to build these interactive trainings, right, and engage their sales, service, leadership people around the world to have the right answers to respond to this crisis, right? And this way, things that would have taken years in the past of first of all, defining skills, building training programs, training trainers, sending these trainers out in the world, and then measuring the effect of these programs, engaging end users. It would have taken years, and they now can do it in days. So that's the first step, right? And financially, you can imagine, right? The AI is comparatively cost effective, right? And it works like an in-person training in a sense that it gives you direct feedback. But basically, for the price you would pay for 1 or 2 hours of in-person trainings with a conventional coach, you can use our AI the whole year, all around the clock, to train people, right? So there's an enormous cost factor as well, right? And the other thing we observe is an improvement in performance, right? And that's, I guess, even more meaningful impact, right? So with our big clients, we observe that roughly 80% of the people participating in our trainings improve in terms of their performance. They show clear performance improvements because they become more self-aware, right? They become more reflective. They understand that they need to work on themselves, and then they start upskilling. And this leads maybe back to the discussion of upskilling and why upskilling is not so important. I'm not saying that upskilling is irrelevant. It's more like it's something that you don't need to focus on, because it will happen automatically the moment you start managing behavior, and the moment you create this urgency to work on your behavior, to change your behavior. And the moment you do that, upskilling will follow, and people, they will have so many different ways of finding content and building skills that they didn't have, but you need to create this meaningful behavior change, right? And this can be done, more effectively than ever.
So skills are still important. We all know that, but it really comes down to the real challenge companies are facing is behavior, and really setting up a workforce that is ready for change, that is ready for the future, that is ready to innovate, and that brings those behavioral skills, and maybe even those training environment that are engaging, that have a safe environment, that create sustainable trainings, and really bring it all, 365 together. Patrick, thank you so much. We are literally at the top of the hour and went a little bit over, which is uncommon for German.
Sorry about that.
No, but I feel like this is fun. So we should definitely have a live chat again. To everyone who joined, thank you so much. We will reach out. We will look at the comments, and really make sure that we extend this conversation. This was one of our first trials, but I think we're happy to, continue this in 2023. Patrick,
I
so
enjoyed
this
too.
time.
Thanks for organizing this, Aline. Yeah, and have a good night in Hong Kong. It's getting dark.
Thank you.
So,
yes, it is. Cool.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.